December 20th, 1944, Ardennes Forest, Belgium, 1912 hours. Darkness, complete, total. The kind where you can't see your own hand. But Will Harper could see everything. Through his forbidden scope, 23 German soldiers glowed like phantoms, 300 yards downhill. Moving in perfect silence toward Able Company, 217 American soldiers sleeping in their bunkers, unaware, vulnerable, minutes from death. The Germans carried flamethrowers. Will's finger rested on the trigger. The device attached to his rifle cost 75 cents. Salvaged parts, midnight work, bleeding hands. It violated 7 military regulations. Unauthorized modification of government equipment. Article 108, maximum sentence 5 years hard labor. In a combat zone, they could shoot him. But it worked. Beside him, Private Eddie Wilson stared through standard binoculars. Saw nothing, just darkness. "You can't possibly see anything," Wilson whispered. 23 men, flamethrowers, 15 minutes until they torch Able Company. "That's impossible." Will adjusted his scope, the faint purple glow reflected in his eyes. "Watch." He found the German officer. Tall, leading the patrol, map case on his belt, standing still, checking coordinates. Perfect target. Will's breathing slowed. Heart found its rhythm. His father's voice echoed from Minnesota winters, from deer hunts in darkness. "Boy, you shoot where the deer will be, not where it is." Will exhaled halfway, held it, squeezed. Crack! The rifle spoke, sharp, decisive. Through the scope, the officer's head snapped back. Body dropped into snow. The German patrol froze. 2 seconds of confusion. Shots in total darkness were impossible. Will's hands moved automatically. Cycle the bolt. Chamber new round. The radio operator reaching for equipment. "Can't allow that." Will fired. Operator down. German patrol erupted into chaos. Firing blindly. Muzzle flashes lit trees. Bullets struck wood and stone. Nowhere close to Will's position. They couldn't see him. Had no idea where death came from. Will tracked through his scope. Methodical, calm, target, fire cycle, target. Third man fell. Fourth, fifth. Across the valley, flares shot skyward. Able Company waking. Americans saw Germans exposed on open ground. Machine guns opened up. The remaining Germans scattered. Running, dying, breaking. 4 minutes. 6 Germans dead by Will's hand. 5 more by American machine guns. German infiltration destroyed. Wilson stared into darkness. How did you? Will was already packing. Every German artillery battery heard that. "We move, now. They're gonna hang you for this." Will looked toward Able Company. Men running to positions. All alive. All safe. Private Collins and his twin daughters. Private Martinez and his mother's rosary. Corporal Sullivan and his 16-day countdown to rotation. 217 men who would see tomorrow. But Able Company's going to live. In 43 minutes, Will would kill 11 more Germans. In 48 minutes, he would face court-martial. In 74 years, the world would learn his story. But first, you need to understand how a Minnesota farm boy built a device the United States Army said was impossible, and why he was willing to die for it. 72 hours earlier, the story doesn't start in Belgium. It starts in a place most people never heard of. A town so small it barely qualified as a dot on the map. Clearwater, Minnesota. Population 743 souls. 1 main street, 1 hardware store. 1 diner with vinyl booths and coffee that could strip paint. A grain elevator at the edge of town that defined the skyline. During the Depression, dust covered everything. The kind of dust that settled into your lungs and never quite came out. Will Harper was born there on April 12, 1923. Spring morning, his mother died 2 years later, giving birth to a stillborn sister. After that, it was just Will and his father. Frank Harper worked the grain mill, came home every night covered in chaff and exhaustion. He'd fought at Belleau Wood in the First War. Saw things he never talked about. Some nights Will woke to his father's screams, nightmares that never ended, memories that wouldn't die. But Frank Harper knew how to fix things. When Will was 8, the neighbor's tractor wouldn't start. The man had tried everything, ready to pay for a mechanic from the next town over, 30 miles away. Frank said, "Son, go look." Will climbed onto the tractor, examined the engine, found the problem in 5 minutes. Fuel line kinked. He straightened it with a piece of wire and a prayer. The tractor roared to life. Frank watched his son climb down, wiped his hands on his overalls. You see how things should work, he said. About how you're told they work. Remember that. Will was 12 when his father's hunting rifle scope broke. Cracked lens. Couldn't afford a new one. Money was tight. Always tight. Will took an old eyeglass lens from a pair his mother used to wear, ground it down, fitted it into the scope housing. Took him 3 days, cut his hands twice. But when he finished, the scope worked. That night they went hunting. Will shot a deer at 400 yards, in the dark. One shot. Frank Field dressed the animal in silence. Finally spoke. Army's going to love you or hate you, he said. Nothing in between. When Will was 16, he built a crystal radio from scrap. Parts people said wouldn't work. Wire from the hardware store's discard bin, tubes from a broken phonograph, a speaker salvaged from a truck. He picked up stations from Chicago, 400 miles away. The town sheriff came by, stood in their small living room, staring at the device. How'd you do that? Parts people said were useless, Will said. Worked anyway. December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Will was 18 years old, listened to the radio all day, his father's radio, the one that could reach Chicago. Next morning, he told his father he was enlisting. Frank stood at the mill's entrance, the morning sun behind him, his face cast in shadow. You don't have to go, he said. Mill needs you. This war's different than yours, Dad. Will shouldered his bag. This one matters. Frank pulled something from his pocket, his compass from the Great War, brass casing worn smooth by 23 years of handling. He pressed it into Will's palm. Trust your instincts, Frank said. Officers don't see what you see. At the train station, they shook hands, didn't hug. Neither of them knew how. Come back, son. I will. Promise. Will kept that promise. But the man who came back wasn't the boy who left. In 14 months, he would watch his best friend die because equipment failed. That death would drive him to break every regulation in the book. Fort Benning, Georgia, January 1942. Basic training separated the wheat from the chaff. Will was wheat, pure and simple. On the rifle range, Sergeant Blake watched through binoculars. Will put every round through the same hole at 300 yards. Wind gusting, rain coming down, didn't matter. Blake wrote in his evaluation, Harper sees trajectory before he shoots. Never seen anything like it in 20 years. But questions everything. Tendency toward unorthodox methods requires monitoring. They sent him to sniper school. September 1942, 60 men entered, 30 graduated. Will finished in the top 3. That's when the modifications started. He filed his trigger for a lighter pull, 2 pounds instead of 4. Gave him better control, better precision. The instructors noticed. Army spent millions developing this trigger. They said, you think you know better? I know what works in real conditions, Sergeant. He wrapped his scope with electrical tape. Reduced the glare, non-standard, unauthorized, effective. He used heavier grain ammunition, bought it himself, better ballistics at range against regulations. The other soldiers started calling him Professor, not affectionately, but he could shoot. September 1944. They assigned him to the 101st Airborne Division. Veteran unit, men who jumped into Normandy, fought in Operation Market Garden. They viewed replacements with suspicion, especially replacements who thought they were smarter than everyone else. Staff Sergeant Crawford made his position clear on day 1. Keep your innovations to yourself, Harper, he said. We do things by the book here. Will met Danny Foster during in processing, another replacement, age 24, from Chicago, law student before the war. Smart, thoughtful, the only man who didn't mock the professor nickname. You're not crazy, Danny said. They sat in the barracks cleaning rifles. You're just right too early. People hate that. They became a team, spotter and shooter. Danny called the wind. Will made the shots. They worked. Danny carried a photo. His wife, Sarah, they'd married 3 months before deployment. Baby daughter, Emma, 6 months old. He'd never met her. Orders came through before Sarah gave birth. Every month a new photo arrived. Danny updated the picture in his wallet, showed it to everyone. December 17th morning. Latest photo came through mail call. Danny found Will in the mess tent. Look at her. Danny's hands shook slightly. Always did when new photos arrived. She's got Sarah's eyes. The baby looked like every baby Will had ever seen. Small, pink, wrinkled. But Danny stared at that photo like it contained the secrets of the universe. 17 days, Danny said. Rotation. I'll meet her myself. Will looked at the calendar. December 17th to January 3rd. 17 days. Already counting. That afternoon, everything changed. Routine patrol, supposedly safe sector. Intelligence said no Germans within 5 miles. Intelligence was wrong. Will and Danny positioned in a tree line, covering Sergeant Crawford's squad. 10 men moving through a ravine 200 yards ahead. Standard reconnaissance. Check the road. Report any activity. Get back before dark. Easy mission. Milk run. At 1400 hours, the German machine gun opened up. The sound hit first, then comprehension, then chaos. Crawford's squad pinned in the ravine, taking fire from an MG-42 at 200 yards. Distinctive sound, like tearing fabric. 1,200 rounds per minute. Men screaming, diving for cover, caught in the open. Will grabbed his rifle, found the gunner through his scope. 400 yards, behind a fallen log. Good position, smart placement. I've got him, Will said. He lined up the shot, controlled his breathing. Squeezed the trigger. Click. Misfire. The round didn't fire. Standard issue ammunition. Quality control had been slipping. Everyone knew it. Everyone complained. Nothing changed. Will ejected the round. Chambered another. 4 seconds. In combat, 4 seconds lasted forever. Crawford's voice on the radio, desperate. We need suppression. Now, right goddamn now. Danny grabbed his rifle, stood up. Danny, wait. Danny fired 3 shots. Rapid, not aimed, just suppression. Making noise, making the gunner duck. It worked. The machine gun stopped. Crawford's squad moved, scrambled out of the kill zone, found cover. The single German rifle shot came from somewhere else. A different position, one they hadn't spotted. Danny jerked backward, slammed against the tree behind him. His rifle fell, clattered on stones. Will dropped his scope, ran to him. Blood, so much blood. Femoral artery, upper thigh, the worst place to take a hit. Arterial spray with each heartbeat. Spurt, spurt, spurt. Rhythmic, terrible. A countdown measured in blood loss. Will pressed his hands on the wound. Blood pumped through his fingers. Hot, sticky, unstoppable. Danny, stay with me. Danny's hand moved to his pocket, shaking, searching. He pulled out the photo, Sarah and Emma, already blood-soaked, red spreading across the image. He tried to speak. His voice came out in gasps. Sarah, breath. Emma, breath. Tell them. You'll tell them yourself. Will pressed harder. Blood everywhere. On his hands, his uniform, his face. 17 days. You'll meet her yourself. Danny's eyes focused on the photo, his daughter's face visible through crimson. Tell them I... His voice stopped, mid-sentence, eyes still open, still focused on the photo, but empty now, vacant. Will knelt there, holding a dead man, blood pooling in the dirt. Sergeant Crawford arrived, saw the scene. His face hardened. Harper, we need to move. Will didn't respond, couldn't. Danny's blood covered everything. Harper, that's an order. Will picked up the photo, wiped the blood away, most of it. Some stains wouldn't come out. He folded it carefully, put it in his pocket. He stood, looked at Crawford. His voice came out flat, empty. He died because my equipment failed. Standard issue ammunition misfired. Will picked up his rifle, checked the magazine. His hands moved mechanically, automatically. It won't happen again. That night, Will sat alone in a bunker. Everyone else asleep or on watch, just him in the darkness. Danny's photo lay on the ammunition crate he used as a table. Sarah Foster, Emma Foster, 6 months old, blood-stained. His father's compass sat beside it, brass worn smooth. Will spoke to both, his voice barely above a whisper. No more Ayijit. He touched the photo. No more Danny's, no more Emma's without fathers. He thought about the ammunition, about quality control, about officers 5 miles behind, The lines making decisions about equipment they never used, about regulations written by people who'd never held a rifle in combat. I don't care what regulations say. His hands clenched into fists. I'm fixing the equipment that fails us. He thought about court-martials, about firing squads, about 5 years hard labor. And if they court-martial me, at least no one else dies because we followed rules that don't work. In 48 hours, he would break 7 regulations. In 72 hours, he would save 217 lives. But nothing would bring Danny Foster back to Sarah and Emma. December 18th, morning briefing. Intelligence officers stood at the map board, pointed to red markers indicating German positions. German night infiltrations increasing, he said. Last 3 weeks, 14 American positions overrun after dark. Standard doctrine remains in effect. Do not engage at night. Visibility 0. Will raised his hand. What about night vision equipment? The officer looked at him, annoyed at the interruption. In development, maybe 1946. How many men die before 1946? Sergeant Crawford's voice came sharp. That's enough, Corporal. Will stood, walked out of the briefing, couldn't listen anymore. Couldn't sit there while they talked about acceptable losses in equipment that might arrive in 2 years. Outside, Able Company prepared their defenses, 217 men. He walked past their positions, saw Private Jack Collins, 22 years old, from Boston. Collins had a photo taped to his rifle stock. Twin daughters, Annie and Rose, 4 years old. Identical except Rose had a birthmark on her left cheek. Collins talked to his buddy. 19 days, just 19 more days. The twins want a puppy, I promised them. Saw Private Carlos Martinez, 20 years old, from San Antonio, youngest of 7 siblings. He sent half his pay home every month. His mother's rosary hung around his neck, silver chain, well worn. Martinez knelt in the snow, praying quietly in Spanish, lips moving, hands clasped. Saw Corporal Mike Sullivan, 25, from Philadelphia, engaged to Anne, elementary school teacher. Wedding planned for February 14th, Valentine's Day. Sullivan had a calendar tucked inside his helmet, crossing off days, 16 days remaining. Sullivan checked his rifle. Methodical, careful. 16 days, he said to himself. Just 16 more days. We'll watch these 3 men. Thought about Danny. 17 days until rotation. Never made it. Thought about the intelligence briefing. 14 positions overrun at night. Did the math. 217 men in Able Company. If Germans hit them at night, maybe 130 dead, maybe more. Jack Collins's twins without a father. Carlos Martinez's mother without a son. Mike Sullivan's wedding canceled. Anne teaching kindergarten alone. Forever. The decision crystallized. Sharp. Clear. Absolute. Not happening. Not again. In 52 hours, these 3 men would be 15 minutes from death. Only his forbidden device would see the Germans coming. But first he had to build it. Night. December 18th. 2200 hours. Everyone else asleep. Will moved through the darkness. 200 yards from camp, a German aircraft had crashed 3 days prior. Messerschmitt, already picked over by scavengers, stripped of anything obviously valuable. Will climbed into the wreckage. His flashlight beam swept across the cockpit. Searching. There. Instrument panel. The dials glowed faintly even now. Phosphorescent paint, radium-based. The Germans used it on everything, made their instruments visible in darkness. Will scraped the paint into a tin can. Careful, methodical, also found optical glass. Part of the gun sight. High quality, perfectly ground. Footsteps, American patrol passing nearby. Will killed his flashlight, pressed himself against the fuselage, held his breath. The patrol moved past, voices fading. Will waited 5 minutes, then climbed out. Headed back to camp. December 19th, 2300 hours. The next night, the bunker, everyone sleeping. Will worked by dim flashlight, cloth covering most of the beam, just enough light to see. Materials laid out on his cot, phosphorescent paint. Brass tubing from spent artillery shell casings. Optical glass from the Messerschmitt. His standard M1903A4 rifle scope. A small battery from a signal lamp. The lamp would be missed. He'd deal with that later. Wire, solder, a metal file. The work consumed him, filing brass tubing to fit the scope housing. The file slipped, bit into his palm, blood welled. He wrapped his hand in cloth, kept working. The theory was simple. UV light activates phosphorescent paint. Paint glows when detecting heat differential. Body heat shows as glow against cold background. Simple in theory, brutal in execution. First attempt, too bright. The glow would give away his position. He added a filter, X-ray film from the medical tent, borrowed without asking. Theft, technically. Added to the list of charges. Second attempt, too dim. Couldn't see anything. He adjusted the paint concentration. Thinner, more precise. Third attempt, marginal glow, barely visible. But there, he tested it on Crawford sleeping across the bunker. Peered through the scope. A faint human-shaped glow appeared, visible against the darker background. "It works," Will whispered. His hands bled. His eyes burned from close work. 3 hours of sleep in 48 hours. But the device was complete. He wrote in his small notebook, "Cost 75 cents salvage materials." Risk Article 108 UCMJ, destruction of government property. Maximum penalty, 5 years hard labor. Combat zone modification, possible firing squad. Alternative, watch more Danny's die. Watch Collins Martinez Sullivan die. Conclusion, risk worth it. He underlined the last line 3 times. Closed the notebook. Hid the device in his pack. Dawn. December 20th, 600 hours. Sergeant Crawford inspected weapons, routine check. Came to Will's rifle. "Harper, what's that on your scope?" Will covered quickly. "Camouflage tape, Sergeant. Reduces glare." Crawford examined it. Suspicious but not certain. Moved on. Will exhaled slowly. Too close. 1400 hours. Briefing. Captain Morrison addressed the assembled soldiers. "Intelligence indicates major German movement tonight. Harper, Foster..." Wait. Morrison checked his roster. "Foster's KIA. Harper, you'll take Private Wilson as spotter." "Sir, I work best alone." "You work how I tell you." Morrison's tone left no room for argument. "Wilson's green but smart. Observation post on Ridge 7. Report any movement. Do not engage without authorization." "Understood, sir." Understood didn't mean obey. Will learned that distinction years ago. Preparation, loading gear, rifle, modified scope, ammunition, radio. Will tucked Danny's photo in his helmet, touched his father's compass, looked at Able Company. Final preparations for night defense. Saw Collins showing a buddy his photo, the twins getting so big. Saw Martinez kissing his mother's rosary, lips moving in prayer. Saw Sullivan crossing off his calendar. 16 days, 1 day less than yesterday. Will muttered under his breath. "You're all going home. All of you. 8 hours until German infiltration. 6 hours until 217 men face death. 4 hours until Will must decide. Follow orders or save lives." The choice was already made. 1830 hours. Temperature -7 Fahrenheit. Will Harper and Private Eddie Wilson moved through the forest toward Ridge 7. The snow crunched under their boots, each step deliberate. Careful, sound carried in the cold air. Wilson was 19, from Tennessee, farm boy like Will. This was his first night watch assignment. His hands kept checking his rifle. Nervous energy, the kind that got men killed. "First time on night watch, Corporal." "Stay quiet," Willa said. "Watch where I watch. If I shoot, don't ask questions." "Sir, orders say don't engage." "Orders don't see what I see." They reached the ridge at 1900 hours, exactly on schedule. The position overlooked the valley. Able Company 400 yards to the northwest. Their fires visible. Small orange dots in the darkness. Men moving between positions, unaware of what moved toward them. The ravine stretched to the east, 300 yards away. Natural infiltration route. Steep sides, heavy tree cover, perfect approach for a night attack. We'll set up the owl eyes scope. Careful, methodical. The device fit onto his rifle with modifications he'd machined himself. The faint purple glow activated, barely visible. Only if you knew what to look for. Wilson stared. "What's that purple glow?" You don't see it. Understood. Wilson hesitated, then nodded. Yes, sir. Will tested the device, scanned the valley slowly, left to right, nothing yet, just cold earth, dark trees. The thermal signatures would stand out when they came. Human heat against frozen ground. Radio check. Lightning 6 in position? Command responded. Copy Lightning 6. Maintain observation. Report any activity. Wilson settled in beside him, pulled his coat tighter. The cold seeped through everything, into bones, into thoughts. You really built that yourself? Wilson asked. Will kept scanning. Had to. Standard equipment kills people. My brother was at Normandy. Wilson's voice dropped. Quiet. Standard radio failed, called artillery on his own position. 14 men died. Will looked at him, really looked, saw the weight Wilson carried, the guilt of being the brother who stayed alive. What's your rotation? 28 days, longest in the company. You'll make it. How do you know? Because I'm not following orders tonight. In 90 minutes, Will would fire the shot that started 47 minutes of hell. In those 47 minutes, he would kill 17 men, save 217 lives, and guarantee his own court-martial. But first, they had to wait. 1900 hours. Darkness fell, complete, no moon. Cloud cover blocked the stars. The kind of darkness where you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Wilson pressed binoculars to his eyes. Standard issue. Can't see anything. Not yet, Will said. Through the owl eyes, the world appeared different. Not clear, not like daylight, but visible. Thermal signatures would glow. Faint. Ghostly. Enough. They waited. 1907 hours. Movement. Will's scope caught it first. A thermal signature. Faint. At the edge of his range. Northeast ravine. Exactly where intelligence said Germans wouldn't be. One person, then two, then 5, then 23. I've got movement, Will said, his voice steady. Northeast ravine, multiple personnel. Wilson looked through his binoculars, saw nothing but darkness. I don't see anything. Will counted. 8, 12, 18, 23, full platoon. How can you see in total darkness? Trust me. Will's scope tracked them. They're carrying something heavy. He zoomed in, enhanced the thermal reading. The signatures showed elongated objects. Tanks on backs, distinctive shape. Flamethrowers. Jesus. 300 yards downhill, 217 American soldiers sat in their bunkers. Some on watch, most resting. Able Company didn't know death moved toward them. Silent, invisible, inevitable. Will grabbed the radio. Wilson took it from him. Able Actual, this is Lightning 6, enemy patrol platoon, strength northeast ravine. They're carrying flame weapons. Static. Crackling. Then a voice, command. 5 miles away, safe, comfortable. Lightning 6 visibility negative all sectors. Cannot confirm. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. Wilson tried again. Urgent now. Able Actual, they're 300 yards from your position, heading directly toward you. Lightning 6 maintain observation only. We have no visual confirmation. Hold position. The radio went silent. Will watched through his scope. The Germans moved expertly. Combat veterans, elite troops, 10 meters. Pause. Listen. Onen meters. Pause. Professional, disciplined, dangerous. Current position 300 yards from Able Company. Speed 20 yards per minute. Slow, cautious, but steady. Time until contact 15 minutes. Able Company bunkers showed heat signatures. Fires inside. Men silhouetted against light. Perfect targets for flamethrowers. Effective range 100 feet. The Germans would be inside the perimeter before anyone woke up. Will did the math. Quick, brutal, certain. In 15 minutes, Jack Collins doesn't go home to his twins. Annie and Rose grow up without a father. The puppy never comes. Carlos Martinez's mother gets a telegram. Her youngest son, her baby, dead in a foreign forest. Mike Sullivan doesn't marry Anne in February. No Valentine's Day wedding. No kindergarten teacher bride. Just a gravestone and broken promises. In 15 minutes, Will said quietly, Jack Collins doesn't go home to his twins. Carlos Martinez's mother gets a telegram. Mike Sullivan doesn't marry Anne. Wilson stared at him. But orders. Will pulled Danny's photo from his helmet, blood-stained, worn at the edges. Sarah Foster, Emma Foster, 6 months old, never met her father. I watched my best friend die because equipment failed. Will's voice stayed level, empty. Standard issue ammunition misfired. He died following procedure. He held up the photo. Sarah Foster, Emma Foster. She'll never know him. I'm not making more of these. Wilson's hands moved to his rifle. Removed the safety. The click loud in the silence. Then I'm your spotter. He met Will's eyes. If you hang, I hang with you. Target acquisition. The German officer leading the patrol. Tall, distinctive walk. Hauptsturmführer by his bearing. SS by his uniform shape. He carried a map case. Leather, military issue. Range 300 yards. Wind 3 knots westerly. Temperature -7 Fahrenheit. The cold would affect ballistics. Bullet drop +2 inches at this range. Moving target. Unpredictable stops. Will waited. Patient. His father's voice in his head. Breathe. See where the deer will be. Danny's voice joined it. Send it. The officer stopped, pulled out his map, or consulted it under a small hooded light. Stood perfectly still. Will's crosshairs centered, heart rate slowing. Thump, thump, thump. The shot Will was about to take would save 217 lives. The map case on the German officer's body would save 10,000 more. Will had no idea what he was about to find. 1912 hours. Will exhaled halfway, held it. The world narrowed. Just the crosshairs, just the target, just the moment. Squeezed, the rifle cracked. Sharp, decisive. The night exploded with sound. Through the scope, the officer's head snapped backward. Body dropped. Clean kill. Instant. The German patrol froze. 2 seconds of confusion. Combat training, fighting disbelief. Shots in total darkness were impossible. Therefore not happening. Therefore, Will's hands moved. Automatic, muscle memory. Cycled the bolt. Clack, clack. Brass casing ejected. Tinkled on stone. Chamber new round. 2 Germans reached for radios. Communication, coordination, calling for help. Can't allow that. Will fired. First radio operator clutched his chest. Fell. Cycle. Second operator grabbed his throat. Collapsed beside the first. Now the patrol understood. This was real. They were under attack from somewhere. Somehow. In complete darkness. Chaos erupted. Some Germans dove for cover. Others fired blindly. Muzzle flashes lit the trees. Bullets struck wood and stone. 100 yards left of Will's actual position. They were shooting at ghosts. Will's scope tracked. Methodical. Calm. Target acquired. Fire. Cycle. Next target. 4th man fell, trying to take command. Officers always tried to take command. 5th man, running for better cover. 300 yards. Moving target. Lead the shot. Account for wind. Fire. Down. Germans shouting now. Panic in their voices. Wo kommen die Schüsse her? Where are the shots coming from? They couldn't answer. In their training, their doctrine, their entire understanding of warfare, you couldn't engage what you couldn't see. And they couldn't see anything. Will could see everything. Across the valley, flares shot skyward. Able company waking. Alert now. The flares illuminated the valley, exposed the German patrol on open ground. 250 yards from American positions. American machine guns opened up. Brownings, distinctive sound, reliable, devastating. 5 Germans cut down immediately, caught in crossfire. Nowhere to hide. The remaining Germans broke, retreated, running, some firing backward, covering fire, most just running. Survival instinct overriding training. Wilson tracked movement through binoculars. Couldn't see Germans, but saw their muzzle flashes. 12 o'clock from your last target. 1 moving left. Will adjusted, found the target, fired, 6th kill. 2 more behind that tree. Will waited. 3 seconds. Patience. 1 German peeked out, checking if clear. Not clear. Will fired. The German dropped. The remaining Germans disappeared into the ravine. Running, broken, their carefully planned infiltration destroyed in 4 minutes. Time check 1916 hours. 4 minutes elapsed. 6 confirmed kills by Will. 5 plus by Able Company machine guns. German patrol destroyed. Mission accomplished. Wilson stared. Holy, you just... In 4 minutes, Will was already packing, breaking down position. We need to move, now. Why? Every German artillery spotter for 10 miles heard that. Progress tracking, 6 kills, 4 minutes. 217 lives saved. Will thought the shooting was over. He was wrong. 1917 hours. Will and Wilson relocated, moving west along the ridge. Standard procedure. Never stay in a position after revealing it. Through the Allies' scope, more thermal signatures appeared. Different direction. 10 o'clock, 400 yards. Contact. Will froze. 10 o'clock, 400 yards. Different German unit, not part of the original patrol. These were searching, hunting, looking for whoever destroyed their comrades. How many? Wilson whispered. Will counted. 9. They're looking for us. Second German patrol. 9 men. Americans 2 men, limited ammunition. Artillery strike estimated 8 minutes. The hunters had become the hunted. The Germans moved cautiously. Professional. 1 carried night binoculars. Early infrared technology. Rare. Expensive. Someone considered this search important. The German with binoculars scanned the ridge. Systematic. Thorough. Getting closer to Will's actual position with each sweep. Wilson saw it too. They're searching for us systematically. Then we give them something to find. Will turned to Wilson. Fire 3 shots into that tree line. 100 yards left of our position. That'll give away. That's the point. They'll think we're there. I'll shoot from here. Wilson hesitated, understood the risk, nodded, raised his rifle. 3 shots. Bang, 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 echoing through the valley. The Germans turned immediately, toward the sound, advancing, aggressive now. They'd found their target, except they hadn't. Will waited, patient. The Germans moved toward Wilson's shots. Clustering, tactical error. Never bunch up. Someone hadn't trained them properly. 350 yards now. Moving fast, confident they'd located the threat. Will's scope tracked the lead German. Squeezed, 7th kill. The German dropped. The others scattered. Confusion again. Shots from a different direction than the first 3. How many Americans were there? Will cycled. Fired. 8th kill. The Germans tried to scatter but confused about direction. Which way was safe? Where were the shooters? Will found the German with night binoculars. Priority target, the one who could actually see. Fired. 9th kill. The binoculars shattered. The German fell, found the officer. The one directing the search, fired. 10th kill. 5 Germans remained. They understood now, caught between 2 positions. Will ahead. Wilson behind and left. Kill zone. 3 Germans ran, full retreat. Will let them go. Conservation of ammunition. Unknown how much more shooting tonight would require. 2 Germans tried to provide covering fire. Brave. Stupid. Will shot them both. 11th and 12th kills. The final 3 disappeared into forest. Running. Survivors who would report what happened, or try to. Their story would sound insane. Ghost sniper. Invisible. Deadly. Impossible. Will's rifle barrel was hot. Touched the metal. Burned his finger. 12 rounds expended. 12 kills confirmed. Wilson crawled over. You just shot 12 men in near total darkness. 12 bullets. It's not over. Will reloaded. Hands steady despite everything. We need to check those bodies. White German patrol leaders carry maps. I want to know where they were going. Progress tracking 12 kills. 9 minutes total. 217 lives saved. Intelligence value unknown. They descended the ridge. Fast. Exposed. Artillery still hadn't come. Surprising. Usually German response was immediate. Reached the first patrol site. 6 German bodies in snow. Steam rising from them in the cold. Heat dissipating. Death cooling. Will went to the officer's body, the one he'd shot first. The Hauptsturmführer. Searched quickly, professional, found the leather map case attached to his belt, opened it, military maps, detailed, tactical overlays showing unit positions, troop deployment schedules, attack timelines, objectives marked, routes highlighted. Wilson read over his shoulder, by flashlight, risking exposure but necessary. Jesus Christ, Will, this is the entire Bastogne offensive plan. The documents showed everything. 25 German divisions, 250,000 men, multi-axis attack, timeline 48-hour blitz to capture Bastogne before Allied reinforcements arrived. Multiple infiltration routes marked. The one they just stopped was highlighted. Priority target, Able Company position. Reason supply route. Cut it and Bastogne falls faster. Will stared at the documents. Understanding dawned. Cold. Heavy. Absolute. If command has this, Wilson said, they can reposition, reinforce, prepare. These documents could save thousands. Will looked at the dead officer's face. Young, maybe 30, SS runes on collar, Hauptsturmführer rank, high-level officer. Why was he leading a patrol, Will asked. Officers don't do that, Wilson understood, because this infiltration was critical. They sent their best. Realization hit, full force. If we hadn't stopped them. Able Company overrun, supply route cut, Bastogne falls in 48 hours. Will looked at Wilson. We didn't just save 217 men tonight. We might have saved the entire Bastogne perimeter. And you did it with an illegal scope and disobeyed orders. Will laughed, bitter, exhausted. Yeah, they'll definitely shoot me now. Distant sound, artillery spotting rounds. Finally, impact 200 yards away. Ranging shots, next salvo would be closer. Time's up. Move. They grabbed the documents, started running. Behind them, artillery began pounding the ridge. Explosions lighting up the night sky. Earth erupting, trees shredding. If they'd stayed in position, they'd be dead. Will had the documents that could change the war. First, he had to survive the next 22 minutes. After that, face the officers who would decide if he was a hero or a traitor. 1935 hours, 2 miles to American lines. Will and Wilson ran through forest, carrying documents. Radio broken during movement. Couldn't call for extraction. Had to reach friendly positions on foot. Through the Allies' scope, more German positions ahead, blocking their path. Direct route impossible. They'd have to go through or around, no time to go around. Contact ahead, Will said, breathing hard. 7 men, machine gun nest, blocking our path. Distance to American lines 2 miles. German positions between 3. Ammunition remaining 16 rounds. Time until relief force assumes patrol, lost 23 minutes. The Germans were dug in, smart positions, machine gun covering the only trail through this section of forest. MG-42, crew of 3, 4 support infantry scattered as security. 1 officer directing. We go silent, Will said. They circled wide, flanking the position, got within 150 yards. Risky but necessary. Will needed clear shots, identified targets through allies. Machine gun crew 3 men, support 4 scattered. Officer 1 standing directing. The officer was priority, command. Cut the head off and the body dies. Range 150 yards, shorter than his previous shots. More reliable, less wind effect, higher success probability. Will steadied his rifle on a tree, controlled breathing, aimed, fired. The officer dropped, silently. Distance suppressed the sound. The Germans didn't react immediately. Didn't see him fall in the darkness. 10 seconds passed, long enough for them to notice something wrong. Their officer wasn't moving, wasn't responding. The machine gunner turned to look, confused, concerned. Will fired, gunner hit, slumped over the weapon. The loader reached for the gun, trying to take over, training kicking in, keep the weapon operational. Will cycled fast, fired, loader down. 3rd crew member ran, smart, get away from the death trap that machine gun had become. Will led the target, calculated movement, fired. 3rd crew member fell. 4 support infantry now fully alert, firing randomly into forest. 1 fired a flare, Valley lit up. Will and Wilson temporarily visible. German at 100 yards. Charging, aggressive. Trying to close distance. Make the unseen sniper reveal position. Will fired, 16th kill. German at 80 yards. Still coming. Brave. Stupid. Will fired, 17th kill. 2 remaining Germans broke. Ran. Survival instinct finally overriding aggression. They disappeared into darkness. Will and Wilson rushed the German position, grabbed the MG-42, heavy, awkward, but potentially useful. Also grabbed ammunition belts, 1 mile remaining. German search parties behind them, shouting, lights, dogs maybe, getting organized, coming fast. Will's allies' battery dying, purple glow fading, flickering. Maybe 10 minutes power left. Maybe less. We're not going to make it, Wilson said. Yes, we are. They ran, through exhaustion, through pain, through everything. 500 yards to American lines, safety, so close. American sentries ahead. Visible now, regular positions. Will shouted, friendlies, Lightning 6 returning. Sentries raised weapons. Halt, identify. Will and Wilson stumbled forward. Hands up. Harper and Wilson, 101st. They collapsed past the wire. Safe. Finally, 1959 hours. A lieutenant helped them up. Where the hell have you been? We heard shooting for an hour. Will held up the map case. Get me to Captain Morrison, now. The lieutenant saw the documents. German military markings. What is that? Wilson answered. Voice raw, exhausted. The entire German offensive plan, and your savior just broke every regulation in the book to get it. In 60 seconds, Will would stand before 3 officers. In 5 minutes, he would either be arrested or promoted. The documents in his hands would save thousands. But would they save him? Progress tracking, final 17 kills. 47 minutes total. 217 lives saved. Critical intelligence secured. 0 American casualties. The shooting was over. The judgment was about to begin. 20-30 hours. Military police escorted Will Harper and Private Wilson to Captain Morrison's command post. Large tent, maps on every wall, radio equipment humming, officers huddled around tactical displays. Will and Wilson looked like they'd crawled through hell, mud-caked, blood-spattered, uniforms torn. Will's hands still shook slightly. Adrenaline crash, combat exhaustion. The weight of 17 dead men. Captain Morrison stood with Major Hayes from battalion, Colonel Pierce from regiment, 3 officers, 3 ranks, 3 men who would decide Will's fate. The modified scope sat visible on Will's rifle. No hiding it now. No explaining it away as camouflage tape. The German map case lay on the tactical table. Leather stained dark. Blood maybe. Or just age. Tense silence. Nobody spoke. Just stared. Morrison gestured to chairs. Sit down, Corporal Harper. Will remained standing, shoulders back, eyes forward. Military bearing despite exhaustion. Prefer to stand, sir. Colonel Pierce looked up. Gray hair, 50 years old, combat veteran from the First War, eyes that had seen everything. That wasn't a request. Wilson sat beside him. Pierce picked up the modified scope, examined it, turned it over, studied the crude modifications. The brass tubing, the phosphorescent coating, the battery attachment, the X-ray film filter. What is this modified optical sight, sir? Modified, with what authority? None, sir. Silence. 5 seconds. 10. 15. The kind of silence that preceded explosions. Courts-martial, firing squads. Pierce set the scope down carefully. Do you know what you've done? Yes, sir. Enlighten me. Engaged 17 enemy positions. Modified government equipment. Disobeyed direct orders not to engage, sir. Major Hayes opened a manual. The Uniform Code of Military Justice. Well worn, pages flagged. He began reading. Article 108. Destruction or damage of government property. Any person subject to this chapter who willfully destroys or damages military property. Maximum sentence, 5 years confinement at hard labor. Dishonorable discharge. Turn the page. Article 92. Failure to obey order or regulation. Any person who violates or fails to obey any lawful general order. Maximum sentence, court-martial. Confinement, dishonorable discharge. Another page. Article 134, General Article. Unauthorized modification of weapon systems in a combat zone. Hayes looked up, met Will's eyes. Maximum sentence, court-martial. Possible capital punishment. Will's voice stayed steady. I understand, sir. Morrison leaned forward. You understand you could face a firing squad? Yes, sir. Long pause. 8 seconds. Morrison staring. Hayes waiting. Pierce thinking. Pierce broke the silence. How many did you kill? 17 confirmed, sir. In how much time? 47 minutes, sir. Hayes consulted his notes. With equipment you built from salvage. Yes, sir. Cost approximately 75 cents. Morrison's eyebrows rose. 75 cents. Yes, sir. Phosphorescent paint from a crashed German aircraft. Brass tubing from artillery casings. Optical glass from the same aircraft. Battery from a signal lamp. X-ray film from the medical tent. Wire and solder from supply. Pierce stared. And you fired without authorization because 217 men in Able Company were about to die, sir. A knock on the tent post. Captain Barnes entered. Intelligence officer, young, Harvard-educated, sharp mind. He carried documents, German documents. The ones from the map case. Colonel, I've reviewed the documents Harper recovered. Barnes spread maps across the tactical table. Unit positions, attack routes, timelines, objectives, everything. This is the complete Bastogne offensive plan. German 5th Panzer Army, 25 divisions, 250,000 men. Timeline shows 48-hour blitz. Pierce examined the maps. Detailed, professional, authentic. Where did these come from? Barnes pointed to German military stamps. Command authorization signatures. Classification markings. These are genuine, sir. Verified through 3 separate sources. He looked at Will. If this infiltration had succeeded, Able Company overrun, supply routes severed, conservative estimate, Bastogne falls within 72 hours. Pierce studied the maps longer. Troop concentrations, attack vectors, supply lines, the entire German strategy laid bare. Are you certain these are authentic? Absolutely, sir. The intelligence value is immeasurable. With this information, we can reposition forces, reinforce weak points, prepare for their main assault. This could change the entire battle. Pierce looked at Will. Where did you get these? German officer I killed was carrying them, sir. Hauptsturmführer, SS, the one leading the patrol. An SS Hauptsturmführer was personally leading a night infiltration patrol. Pierce understood the implications immediately. They sent a senior officer because this mission was critical. Will nodded. Yes, sir. If they'd succeeded, Bastogne would have fallen. Everything else would have followed. Pierce stood, walked to the tent opening, looked out at the night. Snow falling. Men moving between positions. The entire war balanced on decisions made in moments like this. Long silence. He turned back, faced Will. Let me understand this clearly. You modified government equipment without authorization. Yes, sir. You disobeyed direct orders not to engage. Yes, sir. You killed 17 enemy personnel using illegal equipment. Yes, sir. You recovered intelligence that may save the entire 8th Corps. That wasn't my intent, sir. I was trying to save Able Company. Pause. If I give you a silver star, I condone disobeying orders. If I court-martial you, I punish a man who saved possibly 10,000 lives. If word gets out that a 75-cent modification outperformed millions in research and development, Pierce turned to Will. What the hell am I supposed to do with you, Harper? Will reached into his helmet, pulled out Danny Foster's photograph. Blood-stained, edges worn from handling, folded and unfolded 100 times. Sarah Foster, Emma Foster, 6 months old. He placed it on the table. This is Private Danny Foster, Chicago, wife Sarah, daughter Emma, 6 months old. He never met her. Will's voice stayed level, empty of emotion. The only way to get through this. 3 weeks ago, Danny died because standard issue ammunition misfired. Equipment failure. He bled out in my arms. Last words were about his family. Tell them Tell them he loved them. Tonight I watch Private Collins check his twin's photograph. Private Martinez kiss his mother's rosary. Corporal Sullivan counts 16 days until rotation. I thought about Danny, about Sarah and Emma, about all the families who get photographs like this. Will met Pierce's eyes. I couldn't let 217 more families receive them. So court-martial me, sir. Do what you have to do. I'd make the same choice again. Long silence. 15 seconds. 20. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Pierce picked up the photograph, looked at it. Sarah holding Emma, both smiling, unaware that Danny was already dead when this photo was taken, unaware that their world had ended. He handed it back to Will, carefully, respectfully. Captain Morrison, how many men in Able Company? 217, sir. Casualties tonight? 0, sir. Pierce turned to Hayes. Get me a machinist. Harper's going to teach our armorers how to build his device. Hayes blinked. Sir. Every sniper in this division needs one. We have 48 hours before the German offensive hits full force. According to these documents, they're coming in strength. We need every advantage. To Will, you're promoted to sergeant. You're assigned to technical development for the next 24 hours. Will sat stunned. Sir. After that, you're back on the line with your new scope, and you'll use it under my orders. Understood. Yes, sir. Pierce picked up the Owl-Eyes scope, examined it again. This design works reliably. Yes, sir. Range extended 300 yards. Thermal detection in zero light conditions. Battery life approximately 90 minutes. Can be built from salvaged materials in 3 nights. Pierce handed it to Hayes. Document everything. Get specifications, materials list, construction process. I want production starting immediately. To Morrison, Bronze Star for Harper. Not silver. Officially, this never happened. But Bronze Star with V, device for valor. Morrison nodded, making notes. And Captain? Yes, sir. Pierce almost smiled. Next time Harper wants to modify equipment, and before he uses it. My heart can't take this. The room laughed, tension breaking, relief flooding in. Will and Wilson stood, saluted, were dismissed. Outside the tent, Wilson exhaled, long, shaking. We're not getting shot. Not today. You saved 217 lives, recovered war-changing intelligence. Got promoted. Will looked at Danny's photograph, still in his hand, blood-stained, forever marked by death. Danny didn't get promoted. Sarah didn't get her husband. Emma didn't get her father. He folded the photo, put it back in his helmet. So no Wilson. I didn't win anything tonight. Will survived the court-martial. What happened in the next 48 hours would save thousands more lives. And 74 years later, the world would finally learn the full truth. But tonight he just felt tired. December 21st, 0600 hours. Will stood in a workshop tent. 4 Army armorers assembled around him. Notebooks open, pencils ready, skeptical expressions. Staff Sergeant Miller, lead armorer, crossed his arms. You're telling me you built night vision from garbage? From salvaged materials, Sergeant. There's a difference. Will laid out the components, demonstrated the construction process, step by step. The armorers took notes, asked questions, smart questions, technical questions. They understood engineering even if they doubted the result. By 1400 hours, 6 new Allies devices completed. Crude, functional, ready for field testing. By 1800 hours, 12 devices. Distribution began. Every sniper team in the division received one. December 22nd, morning. First combat report came in. Sergeant Miller, different unit, used an Allies device during German night infiltration. Stopped 8 enemy soldiers. 0 American casualties. Miller's radio report. Harper device works. Request 10 more units. Production accelerated. December 23rd through 25th. Timeline compressed into rapid montage. War moving fast. Innovation spreading faster. 24 hours after first production, 18 devices division-wide. 48 hours. 3rd Armored Division requesting copies. Word spreading. 72 hours, 47 devices across 8th Corps. 1 week, 80-plus devices in field use. Statistics began accumulating. Cold numbers representing warm bodies. Lives saved. Lives taken. German night infiltrations down 73%. Their primary tactical advantage neutralized. Darkness no longer protected them. American night casualties down 68%. Men who would have died didn't. Families who would have grieved celebrated instead. German casualties up 240%. The hunters became the hunted. Every shadow held death they couldn't see coming. Conservative estimate, 500 plus lives saved in 1 week. From one device. From 75 cents of salvaged materials. December 28, 1944. Intelligence intercepted German transmission. Encrypted. High priority. Command level. And translation came through. American forces possess unknown night vision capability. Recommends suspend all-night operations Bastogne sector. Enemy accuracy in zero-light conditions suggests advanced infrared detection system. Estimated development cost millions of Reichsmarks. Reality 75 cents in one corporal who didn't follow orders. German night operations effectively ceased. Units pulled back to daylight tactics only. The entire tactical dynamic shifted. Initiative changed hands. Direct impact, Battle of the Bulge momentum shifted. German offensives stalled. Allied defensive lines held. Bastogne survived. 3 phases. Final status. Private Jack Collins made his 19-day rotation. Home to Boston, January 12, 1945. The twins got their puppy. Beagle named Lucky. Collins lived to 78. Died 2001. Surrounded by family. Grandchildren. Great-grandchildren. All because one sergeant broke the rules. Private Carlos Martinez made his 23-day rotation. Back to San Antonio, January 16, 1945. His mother's rosary returned safely. He became a teacher after the war. Taught mathematics for 32 years. Died 1998. His students remembered him. Hundreds of lives he touched. All because one sergeant said equipment wasn't good enough. Corporal Mike Sullivan made his 16-day rotation, shortest countdown in the company. Married Ann on February 14, 1945. Valentine's Day, Philadelphia. 6 children. 14 grandchildren. Died 2001, age 79. Ann survived him by 3 years. They had 56 years together. All because one sergeant saw in the darkness. All 3 men lived because one sergeant said, "I don't care about regulations. I care about saving lives." Will's continuation, January through May 1945. Split assignment, technical development part-time, combat operations part-time, training snipers, refining the Allies' design, fighting, killing, surviving. Personal kill count by war's end, 73 confirmed, 48 using Allies technology. Each one haunted him. Each face remembered. Each life taken and weighed on his soul. Devices produced by VE Day over 300. Distributed across European theater. Used in every major engagement. Night operations transformed. Estimated lives saved by all users, 3,000 to 5,000. Conservative estimate, reality probably higher. Impossible to know exact numbers. How do you count the men who didn't die? V-Day, May 8, 1945. Will in Munich with technical unit. War in Europe over. Orders came for Pacific deployment. Allies devices invaluable for jungle warfare. Night fighting in dense vegetation. The technology would save thousands more. Japanese surrender, August 15th. Deployment canceled. Will received honorable discharge, October 1945. 2 years, 7 months service. Bronze Star with V device. 73 enemy killed. Thousands of Allied soldiers saved. He went home. November 1945, Clearwater, Minnesota. The train pulled into the station. Same platform Will left from. Same bench his father sat on. Same small town that time forgot. Frank Harper waited. Older now, thinner. Gray hair, lines deeper in his face. But standing, strong, alive. They embraced, no words needed at first. Father and son, both veterans, both survivors, both carrying weights invisible to others. Finally, Frank spoke. "You came back." "Told you I would." Well, Frank saw the Bronze Star ribbon on Will's uniform. Didn't ask about it. Knew better. Some things veterans don't talk about. "There's more I did," Will said. Can't talk about it. Classified. Frank studied his son's eyes, recognized what he saw there. The same thing he saw in his own mirror every morning. Your eyes say enough. You saw things. I did things, Dad. Saved people. Lost people. Your mother would be proud. I am. Will visited Arlington National Cemetery. Separate trip. Danny Foster's grave. White headstone. One among thousands. All the same. All equal in death. Will placed the Allies' scope on the headstone. His original device. The one he'd built in midnight secrecy. Blood of its birth. Blood of its use. I kept the promise, Danny. Sarah and Emma are okay. I visited them. Your daughter's beautiful. Looks like you. Has your eyes. Your smile. Will's voice broke. First time since Danny died. I saved 217 men that night. But I couldn't save you. I'm sorry. Wind blew through the cemetery, cold, empty, carrying away words that could never be answered. December 1945. Will married Ellen Mitchell, hometown sweetheart, girl who waited. She asked about the war once. What did you do? Saved some people, lost some people. The rest is classified. She learned not to ask again. Some doors stayed closed. Some rooms stayed locked. Will worked hard, studied harder, using GI Bill benefits, University of Minnesota, optical engineering degree. Will patented a civilian hunting scope based on Allies principles, modified for legal use, no military applications, just hunting, wildlife observation, search and rescue. Harper Optics founded, small company, specialty equipment, deliberate choice to stay small, to avoid military contracts, to remain independent. I've seen what happens when innovation gets swallowed by bureaucracy. Will told investors who wanted him to expand, to grow, to pursue military contracts worth millions. He refused. Every time. Kept the company focused. Hunters, wildlife researchers, search and rescue teams. People who needed to see in darkness for reasons other than killing. Moderate success, comfortable life. 3 children, Michael, Sarah, Patricia. They grew up not knowing their father's story. Will never told them, never attended veteran reunions, never wore his Bronze Star, never spoke about the war. Fort Benning invited him to speak. Officer candidate school, about innovation, about courage, about the balance between rules and results. Will declined. Ellen asked why. Because 73 men died, I don't celebrate that. The years passed, silent, heavy, weighted with memories that never faded, nightmares that never stopped, questions that had no answers. Did those 17 Germans have families? Did they have children waiting? Did their twins lose a father? Did their mothers receive telegrams, will save 3,000, but killed 73? Which number mattered more? December 1989. Will Harper died, age 66, heart failure. The ticker that beat steady through combat finally quit during peace. Obituary in the Clearwater Gazette. 3 paragraphs. Local paper. William Harper, 66, optical engineer and World War II veteran. Survived by wife Ellen, children. Michael, Sarah, and Patricia, 7 grandchildren. Awarded Bronze Star for valor. Served with distinction in 101st Airborne Division. Founded Harper Optics, 1955. Services Friday. No mention of Allies. No mention of 3,000 lives saved. No mention of changing warfare. No mention of the 75-cent device that transformed night combat. Just 3 paragraphs. Then silence. 5 years after Will's death, Dr. Robert Chen, military historian, researched the Battle of the Bulge. Academic work, dissertation research, examining after action reports, looking for patterns, found anomaly. December 21st through 31st, 1944. Sudden spike in night combat effectiveness. American casualties dropped. German casualties spiked. Something changed, something significant. Multiple references buried in reports. Technical consultation, Sergeant Harper. Modified optical equipment. Unauthorized but effective. Who was Harper? Chen tracked service records. Found Will's personnel file. Bronze Star citation. Vague language. Exceptional courage and tactical initiative. Standard citation. Revealed nothing. Technical development assignment. Unusual. Combat corporal doesn't normally get assigned to technical units. Something happened. Something important enough to break protocol. Chen found Ellen Harper, widow, still living in Clearwater. Phone call. Mrs. Harper, I'm researching your husband's military service. Would you be willing to talk? Long pause. Then Will never spoke about the war, but he kept a footlocker. You should see it. Chen drove to Clearwater. Small town, quiet, forgotten by time. Ellen Harper answered the door. 87 years old, sharp mind, clear memory. She led him to the attic. Dust, old furniture, memories boxed and stored. 1 footlocker, military issue, locked for 45 years. Ellen opened it, first time since Will died. Inside the original Allies scope, preserved, maintained. Will's detailed construction notes, diagrams, materials list, specifications. Danny Foster's photograph, blood-stained, worn, carried through war, through peace, through life, never forgotten. Bronze Star medal, never worn, still an original case. Will refuse to wear it, refuse to display it. Hidden in a footlocker for 50 years. Letter from Captain Morrison. Retired 1968, died 1982. Written 1970, never mailed. Found among Morrison's effects. Forwarded to Ellen by Morrison's widow. Chen read, Dear Will, you deserve the Medal of Honor for what you did December 20th, 1944. Politics and classification prevented it. You saved my entire company. Possibly saved the Bastogne perimeter. Possibly changed the war. You were the best soldier I ever commanded. The bravest man I ever knew. Thank you. Morrison. Ellen cried, first time in years. He never knew. This letter never reached him. He died thinking no one remembered. Chen published his book, 2003, The 75-Cent War, Unauthorized Innovation in World War II. Chapter 7, William Harper and the Allies Device. Full story, complete documentation, declassified documents, survivor interviews. Jack Collins, age 78. I'm alive because Harper broke the rules. My children exist because he disobeyed orders. My grandchildren know me because one man said regulations don't matter more than lives. Carlos Martinez, age 76. My mother prayed every night for Sergeant Harper. Never met him, never knew his name until this book. But she knew someone saved her son. She was right. Mike Sullivan, age 81. He saved my wedding, literally. Ann and I had 56 years together, 6 children, 14 grandchildren, all because one sergeant could see in the dark, not just with his eyes, with his judgment. The story went viral. Military history community, then mainstream, Discovery Channel documentary, 2005, Marine Corps Gazette article, Military Training Incorporation, public recognition, 59 years too late, 14 years after Will died. But finally people knew. Fort Belvoir, Virginia, U.S. Army Night Vision and Electronics Sensors Directorate, ceremony, dedication at Innovation Laboratory renamed, now Harper Innovation Laboratory. Plaque unveiled. Bronze. Permanent. Words engraved. William Harper, 1923 to 1989. The greatest threat in combat isn't enemy strength, but our inability to see beyond our own limitations. Ellen Harper, age 87, unveiled the plaque. Her grandchildren beside her. Michael's children. Sarah's children. Patricia's children. All there because 70 years ago, their grandfather broke 7 regulations. Original Allies device displayed. Glass case, museum quality, preserved forever. Crude brass tubing, salvaged paint. Battery from a signal lamp. 75 cents of materials. 3,000 lives saved. Current doctrine changed. Every Army sniper learns Harper's story. First day, Scout Sniper School, Fort Benning. Instructor 1944. One corporal with 75 cents outperformed millions in engineering. Why student? He saw the problem from the ground, sir. Instructor. Correct. Doctrine is starting point, not finish line. Think like Harper, see what others miss. Question what doesn't work. Fix what kills soldiers. That's your job. 76 years after that December night, finally declassified, full story released, no more classification, no more secrets, Silver Star, posthumous, upgraded from Bronze Star, ceremony at Pentagon, Ellen Harper, 101 years old, wheelchair, but present, alert, strong. General Watkins presented the medal. Sergeant Harper violated regulations to save lives. He faced court-martial. He risked execution. He did it anyway because he knew the right thing and the regulation thing weren't the same thing. Today, 76 years late, we partially correct that injustice. This medal should have been awarded in 1945. Better late than never. Ellen's speech, brief, emotional, final. Will would say he was just doing his job, but 3,000 families disagree. Thank you for remembering him. Thank you for learning from him. Thank you for finally admitting that sometimes the rule breakers are the real heroes. Technical legacy. Harper's principles directly influence first-generation electronic night vision. 1950s. 8 engineers who worked on it had studied Harper's allies. Thermal detection principles, heat signature identification, portable power systems, all trace back to crude device built in 1950. Thermal imaging development, 1960s. Image enhancement, signature discrimination, filter technology. Harper's work classified, but his principles guided research. Modern PVS-14 night vision, 1990s. Standard military issue. Every soldier, every unit, universal capability. Started with 75 cents in midnight work in a bunker. Connection classified until 2003. Technology sensitivity, national security, but finally revealed. Full circle, complete story, 2 moments in time, 75 years apart. December 20th, 1944, 1959 hours. Will and Wilson collapsed past American Wire. Exhausted, bloody, alive. Will looking back toward Able Company. Fires visible through darkness. Men running between positions. All safe, all living. He saw Private Collins showing his twins' photograph to a buddy. 19 days until rotation, almost home. The girl's getting so big. He saw Private Martinez kissing his mother's rosary, lips moving in prayer. 23 days. Prayers answered. He saw Corporal Sullivan crossing off his calendar. 16 days. Wedding waiting. Anne in a white dress. February 14th, Valentine's Day. All 3 safe. All 3 would go home. All 3 would live full lives. Families, children, grandchildren. Decades of life. All because one sergeant broke the rules. Will's internal voice. The thoughts he never spoke aloud. The weight he would carry for 44 years. Danny Foster never got to go home. 73 other men I killed never went home. That's the cost no one talks about. But 217 men went home that night. 3,000 more over the next 5 months. Was it worth violating every regulation, worth facing the firing squad? He touched Danny's blood-stained photograph in his helmet, asked the 3,000 families. Arlington National Cemetery, 2020, 75 years later. Ellen Harper, 101 years old, sat in her wheelchair. Frail, but present, alert, strong in ways that mattered. Her grandchildren pushed her through rows of white stones. Thousands of them, all identical, all equal in death. Michael's children, Sarah's children, Patricia's children. 3 generations alive because 75 years ago, their grandfather broke 7 regulations. They stopped at one particular grave. Private Danny Foster, 1920 to 1944. Beloved husband and father. The Allies' scope still rested there. Will had placed it in 1945. 75 years of weather, rain, snow, rust consuming the brass tubing, corrosion eating the battery, decay claiming the salvaged parts. But present, never moved. Will's tribute, his apology, his promise kept. Ellen lifted the Silver Star from her lap. Posthumous award, 76 years late, finally given. She placed it carefully beside the rusted scope. Will wanted you to have this, Danny. Her voice shook. 96 years of memories in those words. He said you earned it more than he did. Said you gave your life so he could save 3,000 others. She touched the cold headstone, fingers tracing letters worn smooth by time. Emma came to see me last month. She's 75 now. Your daughter. She never met you, never heard your voice, never felt your arms around her. But she knows you. Tears fell. First time in years, last time maybe. Through Will's stories, through Sarah's memories, through the blood-stained photograph Will carried until the day he died, Emma knows her father was brave, was loved, was worth remembering. Ellen's hand trembled on the stone. She has 6 grandchildren now. Your great-grandchildren. Teachers, doctors, engineers, living full lives, making the world better. All alive because you died and Will refuse to let it happen again. Her grandchildren gathered closer, listening, learning, understanding. Will never forgave himself for not saving you. Carried your photo in his helmet through the entire war. Kept it in his footlocker for 44 years after. Visited your grave every year until he couldn't travel anymore. He died thinking he failed you. Ellen wiped her eyes. But he didn't fail Danny. He saved 3,000 soldiers because of you. Built a device that changed warfare. Broke every rule to do what was right. That has to count for something. She looked at her grandchildren, all watching, all alive. All there because Will Harper broke 7 regulations on a December night in 1944. He never forgot you, Danny. Never stopped carrying your memory. And now neither will we. She touched the silver star one last time. Thank you. For giving your life. For being Will's friend. For being the reason he became a hero. Rest well. You earned it. Voiceover. Will's voice from 1945. Young, strong, certain. Speaking to Danny's grave that first time. I'm sorry, Danny. I'm so goddamn sorry. Your daughter will never know you. Sarah will raise her alone. That misfire cost you everything. Pause. Wind through cemetery trees. But they all went home. Collins, Martinez, Sullivan, every single one of them. 217 men who would have burned alive if I'd followed orders. 3,000 more after that because I built what the Army said was impossible. Another pause, longer. I couldn't save you, but I saved them. That has to be enough. It has to be. Final pause. I'll carry you with me every day, every mission, every life I save. You'll be there. I promise. The wind carried Will's words away, into the cemetery, into history, into silence. He stood there alone, 22 years old, bronze star on his chest, blood still under his fingernails. Danny's photo in his pocket, the Allies' scope placed carefully on the grave. He would return to this every year, for 44 years, until his body couldn't make the journey anymore, until Ellen drove him, until even that became impossible. Every visit, the same words. I'm sorry. They all went home. It has to be enough. It never felt like enough. The years passed heavy. Will built his company, raised his children, lived his quiet life in Clearwater. 3 kids who never knew their father was a hero. A wife who learned not to ask about the nightmares. A town that forgot the war. But Will never forgot. 73 men, 17 in 47 minutes, 56 more over 5 months. Each face remembered, each name known. German soldiers with families, with mothers, with children, maybe. Dead because Will Harper could see in darkness. He saved 3,000, but killed 73. Which number mattered more? The question haunted him until December 1989. Heart failure. 66 years old. The ticker that beat steady through combat quit during peace. 3-paragraph obituary. Local paper. Nothing about allies. Nothing about changing warfare. Nothing about 3,000 lives. Just William Harper. Optical engineer. Veteran. Bronze Star. Survived by wife and children. Services Friday. Then silence. But silence doesn't last forever. 75 years after that December night. After Dr. Chen found the footlocker. After the book went viral. After the laboratory was named. After Ellen received the Silver Star at age 101. After the world finally knew. Emma Foster, 75 years old, stood at her father's grave. Danny's daughter. The baby in the blood-stained photograph. The girl who never met her father. Ellen Harper sat in her wheelchair beside her. 101 years old, frail but present. 2 women, connected by one night, by 2 men, by sacrifice nobody counted. Emma touched her father's headstone. I brought my grandchildren today. Your great-grandchildren. 6 of them. All alive, all thriving, all here because Sergeant Harper refused to let history repeat. She looked at the rusted Allies scope, still resting where Will placed it 75 years ago. He visited you every year. Did you know that my mother told me? Every year until he couldn't walk anymore. He never stopped apologizing. Never stopped carrying your photo. Ellen spoke, voice quiet, weighted with 96 years of memory. Will died thinking he failed Danny. Died thinking nobody would remember. Died believing the wrong things mattered. But he was wrong, Emma said. 6 grandchildren remember. 3,000 families remember. Every soldier trained at Fort Benning remembers. The laboratory at Fort Belvoir remembers. History remembers. She placed flowers on the grave. White roses. Danny's favorite according to letters he'd written Sarah. Thank you, Dad, for giving everything, for being brave, for being Will's friend, for being the reason 3,000 families exist. Ellen reached out, took Emma's hand. 2 women, different generations, same gratitude. Will saved my father, Emma said, but your husband saved 3,000 fathers. That's the difference between a moment and a legacy. They both saved each other, Ellen replied. Danny gave Will purpose. Will gave Danny's death meaning. Neither could have done it alone. They sat in silence. Cemetery quiet, morning sun warming old bone. Finally, Ellen spoke again. Will's last words were about Danny. Did I ever tell you that? Emma shook her head. Heart attack. Hospital. 3 a.m. He woke up confused, thought he was back in Belgium, reached for his helmet, for the photo. Said, Danny, they all went home. Did you see every single one? Ellen's voice broke. First time Emma had seen her cry. Then he looked at me, recognized me, smiled. Said, tell Emma her father was a hero. Tell her I tried. Tell her it mattered. Those were his last words. Tell her it mattered. Emma cried. 75 years of grief finally given permission. A lifetime of missing a man she never knew. A lifetime of being grateful to a man she met only once when she was 6 and Will was 63 and neither knew what to say. It mattered, Emma whispered to both graves. To Danny, to Will, to history. It all mattered. Every moment, every choice, every broken rule, every life saved, every life lost, all of it mattered. Ellen placed the silver star on Will's grave. He was buried 3 rows over. Within sight of Danny, close enough to keep the promise, close enough to keep watch. 76 years late, Ellen said to her husband Stone, but you finally got the recognition you deserved. They finally understand what you did, what you sacrificed, what you carried for 44 years. She touched his name engraved in marble. William Harper, 1923 to 1989. You were wrong, Will. You didn't fail Danny. You honored him. Every life you saved was a tribute to him. Every device built, every soldier trained, every family kept whole. All of it was because of Danny, because you refused to let his death mean nothing. You were both heroes, both broken, both necessary. History needed Danny's sacrifice and your courage. One without the other changes nothing. Emma stood, helped Ellen back into the wheelchair. We should go. It's getting cold. 1 more minute, Ellen said. She looked at both graves. Danny's and Will's. 2 men who changed everything. Who broke the rules. Who paid the price. Who saved thousands. Thank you, she said simply. From 3,000 families. From 6 grandchildren. From every soldier who learned your story. From everyone who lives because you both gave everything. The right thing wasn't the regulation thing. You proved that. You paid for it, but you proved it. Rest well, you earned it, both of you. They left as snow began to fall, light flakes drifting down on 2 graves, on a rusted scope that once cost 75 cents and saved 3,000 lives. On a silver star warded 76 years too late, on sacrifices too great to measure. The cemetery grew quiet, but the story lived on. In every sniper trained at Fort Benning, in every soldier taught to question bad orders, in every innovation lab where rules are broken to save lives, in every family that exists because 2 men understood that sometimes courage means disobedience. Danny Foster gave his life so Will Harper could save thousands. Will Harper spent his life honoring that sacrifice. Together, they changed warfare. Together, they changed history. Together, they proved that heroes come in pairs. One who dies, one who carries the weight. Both matter. Both remembered. Both honored. The Midnight Scope sits rusted on a grave in Arlington, a monument to what 75 cents and 2 broken men accomplished. 3,000 families know their names. That has to be enough. It has to be.